In this video, I will review how to navigate the storms of life using my ARADAR framework. With the recent hurricane that devastated Jamaica, I feel that it's an important topic that I can delve into. As a naturalized citizen who has been living in the United States for over 30 years, I feel it's important for me to just first ask for your support. Hurricane Melissa was a Category 5 storm that devastated most of the southwest of Jamaica on October 28th. And as I look at the images, I think about the individuals and how life has changed. And it reminds me of myself. I can't help but to see myself, right? So when you would ask me, okay, Esther, what have you lost? What have you lost? How would you compare yourself to those individuals? And so when I've spoken about loss, I've reminded you that loss isn't just losing a loved one. It's those emotional things. It's those sacrifices. And so my last video, I spoke about how I've been taking care of my 82-year-old mother who had a hemorrhagic stroke last year. And so I was celebrating the fact that she's still alive. I've been her main caregiver. And so that situation as well is a type of loss, right? I've lost my ability to just freely do things. I have to make sure that she is my number one priority, in addition to my two children, my 19-year-old and my 17-year-old. It's a loss for her because she can no longer move as she used to. It's a loss that you didn't expect, but now you have to deal with it. I've lost my dad recently. It was 12 years since he passed away in Jamaica. Time has changed and the emotions have improved, but it's still a loss that back then I didn't know how to process it. But with God's help, I am at peace with it now. I'm okay. It's the loss of my grandnephew. It's losing a marriage and divorcing after 15, 16 years of marriage. It's losing a lifestyle. It's losing a house that I, grew my children up in. It's losing a friendship. And when I think about, we're also in the election season. Throughout the governorial process, there were candidates that were vying for that position. And so they lost, right? And they had to deal with that. There are so many other examples. When I take my son to his lacrosse games, there are times when they won and there are times when they lost. And when they won, they celebrated and they keep going. And when they lost, they reflected on what they did and they keep going. And so there's so many instances of loss. And now back to Jamaica. There are people who lost houses, cars, businesses. The government has lost institutions, police stations, roads, infrastructure, schools. So much devastation. And when you hear some of the people speak, it is so interesting that they are just thankful for life. And I'm also in that space where I am eternally thankful, grateful for life. And how did I get to this place? Because at a certain point, I realized that I can only trust and believe in God. And trusting and believing God gives you that grace, that energy, that strength to also believe in yourself. And when you get to that place of believing in yourself, you realize that you are capable of doing any and everything. And so whatever it is that you lost, you look at the learning, look at the lessons, and you figure out now, how can I move on? And so that's where my ARADAR framework comes in. Whatever grief that you've experienced, you have to process it, right? And people process grief differently, depending on what is it that you lost. And I've said this before, based on the examples I gave earlier. Depending on what you lost, it will be different. However, after you've processed that grief, what do you do next? So my framework, you have to accept it. Accept the fact that yes, Hurricane Melissa destroyed my home. Now what, right? Reflect. That's the R. Is there something I could have done to prevent it? Is there something I can do in the future to prevent something else something similar from happening? What are some takeaways from this experience? Right? So the reflection, you're looking at the good and the bad, and then you're trying to think, okay, I understand where I stand. Now, awareness, the A, is where you're going to figure out what resources exist, right? So, are there people? Is there a family member that you can call on? Can you get to the bank and get a loan? Are you going to rebuild? Are you going to, go live with a family member? What are your options? What are some innate things within you? Do you have the strength? Do you have the energy to do these things, right? Based on all of that, what are your resources? And this awareness phase, look at data, compare things, compare options, compare investment, compare and see which one is best for you. And I talked about using the various types of decision making tools. So, as an information systems major many moons ago, there are decision making tools that you can use. And now with AI, I'm sure you can even ask it a question, tell it exactly what you're thinking about, and tell it to give you some options and to weigh each of the option and tell you which one is best. Now, there are other contextual things that will come into place, right? So, the environment that you're in, the government, their actions, the roads, you're going to rebuild, but can transportation get to where you are? Do you have people available? So, based on all of these, it may take a longer time. Now, once you become aware of what's possible, you have to make a decision. So, that's the D. You have to make a decision. What exactly are you going to do? So, once you decide, you're going to take action. You committed, I'm going to rebuild. I love where I live. I'm going to rebuild. Now you need to figure out what are the steps that you need to take, right? So that's where the action come in. Break down that big task, rebuilding a house, into small steps. What are the little objectives that you need to make and reach to get you to that ultimate goal of rebuilding? And if you take those steps, those small steps, you will eventually get to the place of rebuilding, right? To get into your results. And so that's the ARADAR framework, just as an example of going through the Hurricane Melissa scenario. I am going to, provide more information about this going forward. But again, just keep in mind that we all lose things at certain points of our life, but don't stop there. A post I made earlier from my book, My Ultimate Self, How Death Became My Motivator, in chapter 2, titled God's Timing, I said that storms will come. The storms will come. Definitely. There's no question about that. But guess what? They will end. Just like Noah and the ark and the flood. They said the water was upon the earth for 40 days. But if I understand it correctly, it took about 150 days for the waters to subside and the sun will shine again. 150 days seem like a long time. But with everything, we see that time goes by so quickly. I see Jamaica getting past this. I see our people back to normal. I see our people living life again. But in the meantime, they're going to need your help. So if you're listening to my voice, please remember, you too can support however you can. There is a website, supportjamaica.gov.jm, you can go to. There are also local organizations, and I'm in New Jersey, so the Jamaican Consulate is a great resource. Jamaica Organization of New Jersey, the Jaja Foundation, the Caribbean Medical Mission, the Jamaica Medical Mission. These are organizations that have been doing great work over the years, and so I vouch for them. So please search them up and see how you can contribute. Be blessed, be well, continue to be your ultimate self.